Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Mike and Beans. I'm Beans, and I'm with Mike.
What's up? What's up?
Now, a lot happened this week in the sports world, and a lot of action. So we'll get to that. We'll get to as much as we can, and hopefully you'll stick around with us for this episode. But we'll start with the NBA playoffs once again. For the first time in his career, LeBron James was eliminated in the first round of the NBA playoffs, shifting his first round record to 14-1. Now, you have to give credit to the Suns here. Devin Booker led the Suns in Game 6 with 47 points on Thursday night, and the Suns ended up, I just want you to know that I kind of called it. I said that the Suns could win in Game 6 in 6 games or 7 games, and they did. But the Lakers did not have Anthony Davis for most of the series, because even though Anthony Davis tried to play in Game 6, he re-aggravated his groin in the first quarter, and he did not return to the game. Now, Davis played in 3 full games in the series, and although he did not play in Game 1 very well, he led the Lakers in Games 2 and 3, and in both Games 2 and 3, the Lakers were able to come out with wins. So it is evident that if Anthony Davis stays healthy, the series outcome is a lot different. Do you agree with me here, Mike?
Absolutely. I said Anthony Davis was the key to this series because LeBron was going to do all right, like he's going to do what LeBron does, but everyone else just wasn't like helping out much. Dennis Schroeder played all right in the last couple of games. I definitely think so, but Kyle Kuzma averaged 6.3 points on 29% shooting. That's not going to help you at all. The Lakers really needed Davis. He was easily their most consistent option. Like, if anything, if the play was breaking down, it's just, all right, Anthony Davis is on the block. We got to hope he does well. He was really the key to the series, in my opinion. And first of all, yes, credit to you. You said Suns in 6, so clap it up for Bennett. But yeah, I mean, I think Anthony Davis was key. I think the series definitely changes without him, but the Suns looked really good, like really good. It wouldn't shock me if the Suns still ended up winning, even if Davis played all games.
Okay, so now with the Suns win and, LeBron being out, it's clear that, in my opinion, LeBron can't win it on his own anymore. He needs help. And in this league now, he needs all the help he can get with the amount of talent in the league. So a question that arises here is, what do the Lakers need to do next in order to stay in the NBA title race in the future?
I think the Lakers need to look. I mean, it's just the supporting pieces. It's that simple. Like, Wesley Matthews really didn't do anything. Alex Caruso stunk. Horton Tucker looks like a decent piece, but he was always a guy who was like, you need him to develop. I thought he could have used another year in college, but he used the G League really well. He was really good down there. But they just need other pieces. Schroeder looked good. LeBron is LeBron, and Anthony Davis also played really well. But other than that, they didn't get anything from anybody else. They need just another guy who can come in, create a couple shots for himself, hit some open shots, and just can actually really help out this team. And inside the bigs aren't really the worry just because Davis got hurt, but Gasol stunk. Drummond was unplayable, and Montrezl Harrell was also unplayable. So you got to get rid of those guys and just retool. It's really just the end of the roster that I'm worried about. You have the top 3 that you need. Schroeder's top 3. I'd consider him. Yeah, you have those 3 you need. Get some pieces who really can help out the team. KCP looked good, but I think you can get other guys too.
I wouldn't consider Schroeder LeBron, and Davis as a big 3,
Agreed.
but I still think Schroeder is a very important piece into LeBron. Maybe. Now, one player you did not name there was Kyle Kuzma, and I watching SportsCenter this morning. Some of the analysts were saying that it might be time for the Lakers to move on from Kyle Kuzma. I think they should. I just don't. I think Kuzma's. I just don't think Kuzma's giving the Lakers enough now. And, in a possible trade package, I think the Lakers could get, a better scorer in exchange for Kuzma. So what do you think about Kuzma?
Yeah, I think Kuzma doesn't really fit the way this team plays just because with LeBron and Davis, you really want guys who can space the floor and create on the outside. Kuzma, that's not his game. Not his game whatsoever. He's a wing who's like decently long, decent athlete who can kind of get to the rim, but like he's not a reliable jump shooter. He doesn't fit this team. They should get rid of him. He's just not built for this team, really. I think he needs to go. You need to find someone else who can really fit this team more. He was a weird fit for them to choose, like to keep, even like originally, even though they did end up winning a title, obviously. I still don't know if I trust Kuzma that much.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what I'm about to say here might be very controversial. So I know LeBron James is the king. King.
Oh, shit. Here we go again.
But I think that LeBron's reign in the NBA could possibly be over. Not because of the team he has. I just think LeBron admitted before the playoffs that the injury he suffered was the worst in his career, and he'll never get back to being the same. And he said that. I'm not just saying this out of the blue, but this injury impacted him, greatly. And you could see in the series a little bit that, he was tired, in the end of games. You weren't seeing the same playoff LeBron. But of course, you have to take into the fact that it's King James. He can, just change a game whenever he wants. But with the talent that is in the league, like, for example, Luka's Mavericks right now took the Clippers to 7. No one thought that would happen. But because of Luka's firepower, the Suns now, if CP3 decides to re-sign with the Suns, they'll be a contender for the coming years. If Damian Lillard gets traded to to another contender, that's another possibility. So, and we'll get to Damian Lillard, right after this. But is it possible that LeBron's reign in the NBA is over?
I mean, possible, sure, but isn't this the same exact thing we've said about Tom Brady for the last 17 years? Isn't this the same thing we said about LeBron for the last 5 years? Like, let's wait for it to actually happen before saying it's over. He lost one playoff series where, his second guy got hurt, and he's coming off like 70-ish days rest after the last finals, which is a very short turnaround. Look, I don't know if that excuse is justifying why he lost the series per se, but I think it justifies enough why he, just didn't look great. He didn't look, well, I shouldn't say great. He didn't look spectacular. He looked good. You could say great. I wouldn't argue you, but I just think it's too early. He's just been that guy for so long. I think we have to trust him to some degree.
And I think it's a very good point that you bring up with Tom Brady and comparing the two, because I don't think anyone thought Brady could bring this could lead the Bucs team to a Super Bowl, but he did it, and it could be in the same situation that LeBron's in. All right, so we're gonna move on here. So Damian Lillard probably had one of the most impressive playoff performances in a series that we've seen in a long time, especially in Game 5 against the Nuggets, where he had 55 points and he hit 12 three-pointers, and he forced the game into 2 overtimes. But Dame and the Blazers fell in Game 5, and they ultimately fell in the series to the Nuggets. So, and Dame was blowing up social media. People were in awe of his play. He was shooting threes from the logo. And it was, as a basketball fan, as we both are, it was very, very, spectacular to watch. But he's not winning. And, as a player who has that skill that Damian Lillard possesses, you want to see him on a winning team. But the Blazers have not, haven't been able to get out of that second round, even though they're surrounded with CJ McCollum. And, Nurkic isn't a bad big, but, there could be better. And, Carmelo Anthony, he's old, but, I think it's time to talk about, move with Damian Lillard, if Damian Lillard should be moving on from the Blazers and looking for a potential trade to a contender.
With Damian Lillard, the only problem with the team was they didn't play any defense. Damian Lillard was going ballistic. He was as good as I think I've ever seen him, and that is a very high bar cross. He was just spectacular. He looked amazing. He wasn't missing a shot almost this entire series, really. Like, he went off just about every single game, and they still couldn't beat a Nuggets team without Jamal Murray. That's, really bad. Like the Blazers themselves should be really embarrassed about not being able to win this series. The Nuggets are without their second best player, and they still won in 6. That's pretty ridiculous. So if I'm the Blazers, you have to look about just moving. I mean, you got to do something to change. Stotts is gone. What a difference is that going to end up making? Is that going to change everything? Is that going to change nothing? Who are you going to hire next? Is Damian Lillard going to be happy with the next hire? And will you start to actually play some damn defense for once in life? It's that simple. That's the key to them moving on. But if I'm Dame, I have to think about moving on. He's always given off the impression that he's very loyal, but you have to think about, okay, what's best for my career? These guys have let me down multiple times. We can't play any damn defense. I can have an incredible game and we can still lose. And our team can be incredible offensively and we can still lose. He has to think about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, Dame said today, actually, that he wants Jason Kidd to be hired as their next head coach. And I just don't see Jason Kidd being a good head coach.
I don't either.
And he's already been with the Bucks, and he didn't do particularly well. So I'm kind of surprised to hear that Damian Lillard wants Jason Kidd as his head coach. But we don't know what's going through his mind.
And just one thing to add, in the last Blazers game, they scored 115 points on just 94 possessions, which is 1.2 points per possession, which is really good. And they still lost by 11 points. It's just they can't play any defense. It's that simple. They need to be able to play defense if they want to actually do anything.
Well, that's definitely playing defense is definitely a key in today's game because of the amount of talented players we have. All right, so we're going to move on to previewing the next round of the NBA playoffs. Now, we know that the first round hasn't concluded yet with the Mavs and Clippers. Have a game 7 tomorrow at 3:30, but we're going to preview the other series so far. So right now we have Sixers versus Hawks and Nets and Bucks. Those are the 2 Eastern Conference semifinals. Now the Nets and Bucks series starts tonight, and that I think people are now realizing that because of the Bucks sweep over the Heat, that this Bucks and Nets series could be one of the best series we see in this playoffs. This Milwaukee Big Three is the real deal. It may not be as firepower as the Nets Big Three, but this Bucks Big Three is serious, and they could give the Nets some trouble. What do you want to say about this Bucks Nets?
I agree
because you have the Bucks in the finals. Just remember.
I think this is the toughest series the Nets face. I think if the Nets don't win, I think this is the one series that if I'm the Nets, I'm like, okay, we have to come in and play our A game here. This Bucks team is really good, and they match up really well because the Nets have no one who's going to stop Giannis. We know that for a fact. Giannis is going to get whatever he wants. It's what can Drew Holiday do? What can Chris Middleton do? And will the Nets ever play any defense? The answer is no to that. They're not stopping anybody. They just don't care on that end. It's a matter of what will they do offensively? How easy will it be for Kyrie, Harden, and KD to score? I think Giannis can neutralize KD. KD's one of the most unstoppable players in the game, if not the most. James Harden, excuse me. I don't know why I messed that up. Harden, again, same thing. I assume you either put Drew Holiday on him to try to neutralize him, and you just you live with what Kyrie does. Just because I think Kyrie's probably the 3rd best scorer, but I do like this Bucks team. I think they defend really well, and Giannis is that star that they need. I think they've hit that point where it's okay, we got to lock in. We messed up last year. Let's go. So I like the Bucks here. I like it. I think they can take them.
Yeah, this will definitely be a really fun series to watch. We'll see how game 1 goes tonight. And, the Sixers and Hawks took care of their first round opponents. So do you see the Sixers and Hawks series being competitive, even though I feel the Sixers are heavily favored? But the Hawks played very well against the Knicks as Trae Young, first time in the playoff, first time fans are seeing him in the playoffs. And it's been really fun to watch with all him, trash talking New York and everything. And he kind of shut the Knicks up. Mm-hmm. But another thing to add here is that Joel Embiid hurt his knee in the series with the Wizards, and he couldn't return in game 4, and he stayed out in game, or he was out game 5. So do you think this impacts the Sixers, in the maybe not in the series, but in the long run, if the Sixers are able to get by the Hawks without Embiid really impacting the series that much?
I mean, absolutely. I think Embiid's injury could really hurt them this series. I mean, the Hawks last in the series against the Knicks looked amazing because they were actually playing defense now that Nate McMillan's a new head coach. That team is on a new level with McMillan. I didn't believe it would translate to playoffs, but boy, was I wrong. Trae Young looks excellent. If Embiid isn't playing, I could easily see the Hawks taking this series. They looked really good. Trae Young's amazing. And then they got guys around him who can play. Clint Capella's decent. Bogdanovich is just getting buckets. And you just got a whole bunch of guys around him that are like actually balling out. That have played pretty damn well against the Knicks. And they will look to continue that against the Sixers. And Sixers really didn't impress me in their last couple games against the Wizards. This is a Wizards team that can't play any defense, that has 1.5 guys who can consistently get buckets. And they looked fine. Like the Wizards took a game without Embiid, and then in the second game, the Wizards fell apart late.
Mm-hmm.
Like they couldn't stop the secondary options on the Wizards. Robin Lopez went off. Rui Hachimura went off. What's Bogdanovich? If you can't stop those guys, what's Bogdanovich going to do? What's Trae Young going to do? So if I'm the Sixers, I worry a little bit. I think Embiid's health plays a huge factor. In the end, I am going to take the Sixers just because I think they're the better team, but definitely not as confident as I would have been if this series happened in the first round.
Mm-hmm. Because I think in the first round, I think we both thought that the Sixers could have a cakewalk to the conference finals. Now, not really with Embiid's injury, so that'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Now, we'll shift over to the West. We have Suns versus Nuggets in the first Western Conference semifinal series, and then we have Jazz versus the winner of the Clippers and Mavs series. Now, I saw on Twitter, an ESPN analyst said that we're getting, at least in the West, in the West, we're getting at least one, conference final level series. The Suns and Nuggets both, it could have been a conference finals if they had, been seeded differently. I think both teams are, very, very good. So that'll be a very fun series to watch. So who do you see, coming out of this series? Do you think the absence of Jamal Murray impacts the Nuggets more in this series than it did in the Blazers?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a Suns team that is they looked really good. These are two of the teams that probably run some of the best offense in the sense that they actually run plays instead of just pick and rolls every time. The Suns run really creative ways to get Devin Booker open, to get Chris Paul open, to get DeAndre Ayton rolling to the rim. And I do not trust this Nuggets defense in the slightest. And on the offensive end, it's Jokic, and then it's hope Austin Rivers goes off for 30 points and hits 9 open threes.
Michael Porter Jr. also could play a factor in the series.
Yes, but if Michael Porter Jr. ever tries to play defense on anybody half decent, you're in a world of hurt because he can't play any defense. He is one of the worst. He might be the worst defender left in the playoffs. He can't defend anybody. I'm confident I could get 15 on him. He's that bad defensively.
Yeah, you're lucky the Wizards aren't in anymore because then half the Wizards team would be in that conversation for worst defenders in the playoffs.
Very fair. Very fair. But yeah, I actually got the Suns. I'm very confident in the Suns. Jokic is going to get his. He might take a game, frankly, because he's just been that good. But these secondary pieces in both matchups, I think, change everything. Secondary pieces for the Nuggets, you have Jokic, and then he's surrounded by what? Campazzo? Austin Rivers? I think you're going to get what you get out of Austin Rivers, but it's not. I'm not counting on Austin Rivers to be reliable. Aaron Gordon? Michael Porter? Sure. What he gives you offensively, he will make up for in that he will lose it all defensively. Versus the Suns team, Mikal Bridges and Jay Crowder were excellent in that series against the Lakers. Devin Booker. He's a beast. Chris Paul, if he's fully healthy, I couldn't really tell if he was fine, but he looked good. Again, that's another big difference. Chris Paul against Campazzo was a very big difference from Chris Paul against Jamal Murray. And DeAndre Ayton, I think, can do enough to contain Jokic a bit. And on the other end, I think Ayton's athleticism is an advantage that the Suns will be able to use. So I got the Suns very confidently, frankly. I think the Suns could take this one in 5 or 6.
Okay, and we'll preview this Jazz series a little bit because the outcome of the other series hasn't been concluded yet. But we both thought the Clippers would cruise past the Mavericks, and now that we've seen that they're gonna they need 7 games if they win. Are you more confident in the Jazz in this series? Could we see a Jazz Suns Western Conference Finals?
Yeah, the Jazz. I'm definitely more confident in the Jazz than I was early on, just because the Clippers have let me down. Like I had really high expectations for this Clippers team, and they just failed me miserably. Their defense they're running is bad. Paul George really hasn't shown up, and Kawhi Leonard, while he looks really good, I still believe in this Clippers team. I don't want to say they should win the next game, but they absolutely should win Game 7, and then I think they have the talent to win this series here. But I don't know if I trust them that much. They keep losing me. Every single game I see, they just do something that keeps losing me. So with the Jazz, they won the series in 5 games, and they looked very impressive with
Donovan Mitchell on the floor.
Yeah, Donovan Mitchell was much better. Without Donovan Mitchell, they were lost. But with Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert looked a lot better, and the rest of their supporting cast also looked pretty good. So I think, and then obviously Luka too. Luka's going to get what Luka's going to get. If Luka makes it to the next series, watch out. He could do something spectacular. But I'm definitely more confident in the Jazz than I would have been, say, again, 2 weeks or so ago.
One thing I just want to mention here is that I was listening to SportsCenter this morning, and I believe it was Ramona Shelburne who was reporting on this Mavs and Clippers Game 6. But going back to what you said about the Clippers defensively, that Kawhi Leonard was on Luka for 35 possessions last night, and Luka scored on 2 of them. So that just shows if Luka gets whatever he wants, he's a danger for the Clippers. But if he doesn't get what he wants, the Clippers can win Game 7. But Game 7 is tomorrow for that series. So if you're interested to see, you should definitely watch that because it'll probably be a really good game. Now, we're going to move on to our final topic here. So announced this week, Coach Mike Krzyzewski, I think I did say that right, or otherwise known as Coach K, announced that he's retiring from his role as head basketball coach at Duke University. Now, Coach K has won 1,170 games, which is the most all-time in men's college basketball. He has won 5 national championships, 12 Final Fours, and has 97 tournament wins. But you, Mike, have some ranting to do about Coach K. Let's hear it.
So, you got to state the obvious to start. Obviously, we know Coach K had a great career. You can't deny that. He's probably the greatest coach in college basketball history. But finally, college basketball's Thanos/Darth Vader, the ultimate villain, has finally retired. The guy who we all love to hate and now will hate to have to see on our screens insufferably for another year nonstop is finally gone. Now, this retirement tour is never going to end. We know Coach K wanted the retirement tour. He always wants the applause. He wants the gifts. He wants everybody to praise him. He wants everybody to be like, oh, there's Coach K. He's the best. Woo, go Coach K. Nope. If you are an American, if you have any respect for the identity of humans, of America, and everything we stand for, boo him. Make him boo. Boo him. Make him talk about how classless the fans are. Make him talk about that. Make him rant about being an old man in his interviews. We need all of that. We need everyone behind him to boo. I need Coach K to say, Jimmy V was one of my closest friends. Roy is one of my closest friends. These guys do not want to see these fans booing. Wrong. Boo, boo, boo. We need booing. Coach K doesn't deserve anything. He doesn't deserve all this praise he wants. He wants the praise. Don't give it to him. We've stood on hating Coach K. Don't give him the praise he wants. This is probably the first time he's going to schedule a road game in the non-conference, frankly. This will be the first time, a non-ACC road game, because he wants praise and he wants gifts from everybody. And if you haven't seen the video of how this tour started out, it's as insufferable as it gets. Coach K walking up to his press conference with Every Time We Touch by Cascada playing in the background as he's clapping like this. Oh my God, this is already terrible. And we already knew he's going to use the retirement tour as an excuse to. He's going to be like, oh, we lost because everyone's giving me too much attention. Looking at the first game against Kentucky, looking at a random Florida State game because he loves making excuses against Florida State, or just a random home loss. He's going to make it about himself. This entire tour is about himself. He's talking about how, I'm retiring so I don't have to lie to recruits and tell them I'm lasting longer. Wrong. He's retiring. This is all about himself. Don't let anything he says. This is all about Coach K. Everyone knows it. And you know what? While we're at it, let's talk about all the great things Coach K has done. Shout out to What's Your Major, if you remember that, when he questioned a student reporter who asked, how's this game going? And Coach K said it was like the worst thing that's ever happened in his life. And then he goes, what's your major? To the kids. So, no. But everyone's like, oh, this is the first time he's done it. He's a cranky old man. That's wrong, because he did the same thing in 1990 when the Duke student newspaper gave the team a B+ midseason review. And then he decides to invite the sports staff for a get-together with the team and all of his staff, saying the students were whacked out and don't appreciate what the fuck is going on here. And instead of apologizing for, scaring kid journalists straight for, lecturing kids, he apologized for using profanity. This is the type of guy we're dealing with, the man who wants a story over anything else. And for everyone saying, oh, Coach K always ran a clean program, that's the big thing that pisses me off, by the way. He did not run a clean program. And you know how I know this? Corey Maggette admitted that he got paid by Coach K when he played for Duke, and there was zero punishment. Nothing was given. But K does it the right way, right? He didn't pay guys like Zion. No, never. Oh, wait, there's only one example? Oh, wait, Chris Duhon, a player for Duke also. His mother got a job with a booster that she didn't have to apply for because there was no position, and that she was underqualified for, according to many people around her, yet she got a very high-paying job, a very big upgrade, because Duhon went to Duke. A Duke booster employed her. Next up, Dylan Brooks. Coach K gave a lecture to one Dylan Brooks after Dylan Brooks beat Coach K in the NCAA tournament because Dylan Brooks celebrated too much by shooting one jump shot at the very end of the game. This is on the same Coach K team that had Grayson Allen on it. Coach K is lecturing someone else about being too good to do something and being too classy when he had Grayson Allen on his own team, which, by the way, let's talk about Grayson Allen and how Grayson Allen faced no repercussions for anything he did. I mean, was he suspended for a game? He maybe was suspended for a game, and it was a game against a nobody. The next game against a good team is like, oh, Grayson's fine. He learned. He's back. This is only the 8th time he's tripped somebody. Coach K has also just decided to start skipping games this year, so I wouldn't shock me if he's like, oh, we're going to Wake. I don't want to go to Wake. So John Shire coached this game. You're coaching next year. This is a training exercise. But also, Coach K also takes a ton of back surgeries when his team stinks. In 1995, he allowed an assistant to burn and take credit for his terrible team when they went 2-14 in the ACC schedule. In normal schools would have their head coach at the beginning of the season take credit for these losses, but Coach K did not take credit for these losses because he's Coach K and he gets out of it. However, at least credit to him, he did admit that he should take credit for those losses. If only he could talk to the athletic director about taking those losses if he really cared, but no, he doesn't. Or let's talk about how he didn't want to play in a pandemic because his team stunk. He never mentioned anything about it. And then, the second his team loses to Michigan State at home, cancel the season. Everyone's got to quit. My team stinks. Please. Oh, let's talk about how Coach K turned his back against one-and-dones and how he hated Elton Brand for going to the league. But then all of a sudden, it just switches when he realizes, oh, wait, I can get something good out of these guys. Oh, wait, Luol Deng needs something? Oh, one-and-dones are fine now. Change of plans. I change everything. I never said a bad thing about him. This guy's such a fraud. Oh, my goodness. Oh, wait. Let's talk about him taking the story away from after they lost to Stephen F. Austin. Coach Shea talked about his dramatic health problem that impacted the team this game, and that took the story away from Nathan Bain and his excellent game winner, who was raising money for his family, who lost a ton in a wreckage in the Bahamas from Hurricane Dorian. So Coach K would rather have a story than give his man's family life in the Bahamas. This is the man we're celebrating. Shame on him. And frankly, Butler gives Coach K a gift. I will definitely look into leaving the school. I will either drop out of college. I will do whatever. If Butler gives K a gift, I'm gone. I can't stand for this. Unbelievable.
Wow. Well, everyone, as you can see, Michael is not buying this Coach K final season. So, with all that information, though, you might feel differently after this.
Please, if you think I'm feeling differently, Bennett, you need to take a lap. I do not. There is nothing I will ever do for Coach K that will be positive. And frankly, do I really think Coach K is ever going to leave college basketball? He could be 90. I could be 95 years old, and Coach K will still somehow be involved in college hoops. He'd be 178, and I mean, he's still going to be there somehow. He will never leave. I still don't feel like he's ever going to leave.
Very possible. Well, that'll wrap up this podcast. Mike, anything to just say shout out to
Absolutely. I owe a thank you to a man. I would like to thank Coach K. Thank you for reprimanding your opponents after you lost. Thank you for never reprimanding your own students until you had to, until they attacked your bad guy in Jeff Capel. Thank you for holding Grayson Allen very accountable. Thank you for always trying to take a spotlight when a smaller team would beat Duke, and by going to their locker room and thanking them and wishing them the best. Thank you for never being hypocritical. Thank you to lying about recruits and for using your retirement as sympathy. Thank you for making this about family and not about the change in the game when you're 74 years old, which this is definitely a retirement about change, the change in the game. Thank you for making this about yourself and not about the kids, because this is what matters most in the game. Thank you for making the media talk about how great you are for another year. Thank you very much for this, Coach K. Thank you for making the media suck up to you again, because they will not stop sucking up to him. I already saw Jay Billis talking about how this is the greatest thing he's ever done. Yeah, bust off. Thank you for taking a farewell tour, which will only make America hate Duke more. But most importantly, thank you for making Duke fun, making hating Duke fun. Thank you very much. There's only one way for Duke fans to cheer you on. Roll the clip.
Let's put it like defense. Let's go. Come on, Duke. Yeah. Let's go, Duke. Come on, man.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Michael. I do appreciate it. But I'm going to shout out the James Madison Dukes, who have won their first 2 games in the Women's College World Series for softball. Now, you know, in the first game, they faced number 1 nationally ranked Oklahoma. And this is possibly Oklahoma's best team that they've ever, gotten together. And they lead the country in home runs, and they are just a powerhouse. But James Madison beat them 4-3 in extra innings, and they got their first ever College World Series win. Now, James Madison has been an underdog the whole tournament. They went to Missouri in the Super Regional and defeated them. So shout out to JMU. I hope they keep continuing to win. Hopefully they get to the final. And I honestly hope they just win it all. But we'll see what happens, because Oklahoma, you can never count out these top softball seeds. But that'll do it with Mike and Beans. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Peace.